Hello students, how are you all? So welcome to the next lecture of this chapter number 9 of Business Studies Class 12 CBSE. अभी तक हमने chapter के अंदर क्या चीजों को पढ़ लिया है? That is different kind of decisions taken, and in the last class we had done what are the factors affecting the capital structure. Now what are we going to do today? We will see what kind of capital is required for functioning of a business. So there is fixed capital and working capital. These two types of capitals are required for functioning of a business. So let us understand what is the meaning of fixed capital and working capital. When we say fixed capital means money which is invested in acquisition of fixed capital, and working capital means which is day-to-day functioning of the business, the capital which is required for day-to-day functioning of business, like acquisition of raw material, payment of wages, payment to suppliers, etc. Let us read from here what is written. Fixed assets are those which remain in the business for more than 1 year, usually for much longer, like plant and machinery, furniture, fixtures, land and building, vehicles, etc. So the purpose of fixed assets, acquisition of fixed asset, is not for the purpose of reselling. We invest into fixed asset for keeping it for the longer period, and usually these assets are not meant for reselling it. They are used in the business for increasing or enhancing the production capacity of business. Like when you buy a new plant or machinery, your purpose is not reselling it. Your purpose is to use it, and by use of this, you want to enhance the production capacity of the business. You want to reduce the cost of production, etc. Okay, so they are long-term assets, and obviously when they are long-term, the investment is also higher. If I talk about raw material and if I talk about plant and machinery, obviously there will be a huge gap between the cost. In raw material, I will have to invest lesser amount of the money, and in acquisition of plant and machinery, I will have to invest big amount of money. Now, for understanding the working capital, first of all, we have to understand what are current assets and current liabilities. So current assets are those assets which are in the normal routine of the business, get converted into cash or equivalent to cash within a year. For example, inventories, debtors, bills receivable, etc. So within few months only, normally less than 12 months period, they get converted into cash once again. Okay, so when we buy raw material, our purpose is not for holding it. Okay, our purpose is to convert it into FG and sell it to the customers. So actually, working capital is the difference between what is working capital. Understand over here, working capital is difference between current assets and current liabilities, or I can say excess of current assets over current liability. Now, what are current liabilities, which we'll study later also, but let me give you a gist of it here. Over here, current liabilities are those liabilities which are to be settled within a period of 12 months. So like your trade payables, your short-term loans and provisions, etc. These are your current liabilities. So excess of current assets over current liabilities is called working capital. When we talk about the fixed capital, we have to understand what is fixed capital and current assets, fixed assets and current assets also. That is why only current assets is being explained over here. Now, what is fixed capital? Let us understand that fixed capital is that amount of capital which is incurred in procurement of or buying of fixed asset or for a business or an organization. The fixed assets of an organization are those assets which remain in the business for more than 1 year, like any building, any land purchase, any plant purchase, machinery purchase, etc. Since this will remain in the business for a couple of years, normally 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, like that. For the longer period, these assets are required, and all the money which is invested into acquisition of fixed asset is called fixed capital. Okay, examples are given over here. Plant and machinery, furniture, etc. All those examples which we discussed just now. Now, what is the importance of fixed capital? Why do we need to invest into the fixed capital? So under fixed capital, we need to do the investment for the long-term growth of the business. See, if I want to run the business and my purpose is to run the business for a longer period of time, I definitely need to invest into such kind of assets which will help me to reduce the cost, which will help me to produce on a greater scale, and so on. So for all these purposes, for long-term growth, if your vision is long-term, you will always invest into the fixed asset. So capital budgeting, what is capital budgeting? The other name of fixed capital, or this is capital budgeting decision. Fixed capital decisions, or we will say investment decision. For that, capital budgeting decision word is also used. For investment decision, what word do we use? Capital budgeting also. Capital budgeting decisions have long-term effect on the growth and profitability of the business in the future. Then the second point which we have to keep in mind, why there is importance of this capital budgeting decision or investment in the fixed capital, that is large amount of fund is involved. So obviously this is very, very important and very crucial to take the decision properly, because a huge chunk of money will be invested into acquisition of land, building, furniture, fixed assets, etc. So if you have taken a wrong decision, your lot of money will be invested over here, and it's not easy to liquidate that money. It's not like current assets. So if next year also you want to sell it out, first of all, you will not get a buyer readily. Second thing, you will not get the same amount of money what you have invested. So you have to take the decision very, very carefully. So large amount of fund is involved. That is why also this capital budgeting decision are it is important, or investment in the fixed capital is involved. Then next is risk is involved. Risk is everywhere in the business. You must have studied in class 11th also. Risk is inevitable part of the business. So why risk is involved in the fixed capital? Because investment in fixed capital is it is large amount of money is involved. That is why, and it is for long term also. So more risk is involved. Irreversible decision. What is the meaning of irreversible decision? Which is what we discussed when we were talking about the long-term involvement is there. Large fund is involved over here. So investment decision cannot be reversed without incurring heavy losses or wasteful expenditure. For example, I bought a plant and I did not do much research and I bought a plant for my factory. Now, I will not be able to return that plant to the supplier, and people who are ready to buy will be very few, and I will have to do a lot of effort to find out, because that should be the same industry, requirement of the same machine should be there. There may be people who are not ready to buy because they already have some machinery or more modern plant, or they are not ready to invest. And even if they get ready to buy, they will not be buying from me at the same price, because this has become a second-hand machinery. So why won't they buy from the supplier itself if they want to buy for the same prices? So if they are going to buy it from me, obviously I will have to offer them discount. So see, I have invested a huge sum of money. Then on the second thought, I thought, no, this decision was not correct. Now I have to return it. Returning is not possible. Now I'm trying to find out the buyer. First of all, finding the buyer will take a lot of time. Then the buyer will not take it at the same price. Buyer will ask for heavy discount. So I am, incurring a lot of losses, and it is wasteful also. That is why also financing decisions, capital budgeting decisions are important. Okay, so this is the importance of capital budgeting decisions. Now we have to understand what is the factors, or what are the factors which affect the requirement of fixed capital. Yes, what is the requirement of fixed capital? This will entirely depend on the type of business and various other factors. Let us discuss what are the factors. First of all, the nature of business. If nature of business is such where you are manufacturing, you need lot of machinery, lot of investment in plant and machinery. If you are a service industry, you need lesser investment in the fixed capital, etc. So nature of business will majorly decide that what kind of fixed capital requirement is there for your business. Next is scale of operation. So directly you can relate larger or bigger scale of operation, bigger investment in the fixed capital is required. Smaller scale of operation, smaller investment in the fixed capital is required. Okay. Choice of technique. So what kind of technique is chosen by the organization, that will also decide that what kind of fixed capital investment is required. So requirement of fixed capital of an organization largely depends on the technique of operation in the organization. An organization that is capital intensive. Capital intensive techniques means where automatic work is done. Most of the work is not manual, it's automatically done by the machine and all. It requires huge amount of investment. And on the other hand, if your organization chooses labor intensive techniques, means automation is less and manual work is more, then the less amount of capital is required into fixed assets. Then what is technological upgradation? What is the kind of industry you are? Suppose you are into some kind of industry where technological upgradation is very rapid. For example, laptop, mobiles and all the other electronics. You see, the technological upgradation is very rapid, and very soon the old technology becomes obsolete. So here more requirement of the fixed capital is required. But on the other hand, if you talk about textile and steel and the other industries, there the technological upgradation is not so rapid, so their requirement will be lesser. Next is growth prospect. If an organization aspires to grow fast and with a higher rate, the investment in the fixed capital should be at the higher side. Why? Because if you want to grow, obviously you have to have the capacity of producing more. You should have that vision, and for that you need to make more investment into the fixed capital. If you do not aspire to grow so fast and rapidly, then your requirement in the fixed capital is going to be less. Next is diversification. What is diversification? You must have heard this word diversification before also. So diversification also means when you're producing one line of product, now you want to start producing other line of product, maybe related to this, or something very different from this one. So your fixed capital requirement will increase. For example, earlier a company was manufacturing diapers, now it wants to go for wet wipes also. So this is similar kind of product, but maybe it's different set of machinery is required, so the fixed capital requirement will increase. But suppose you are producing baby products, diapers, wet wipes, etc. Now you're going altogether to a different kind of business for diversification. Let's say you are going into the fashion clothes for the adults. So your set of machinery and the skilled people will change. So you need with more amount of fixed capital. So how much diversification company wants, whether they want diversification or not, on that basis also the requirement of fixed capital will be decided, and this is one of the factors which will affect the fixed capital requirement. Then next is financing alternatives. There are many tools that act as alternative to huge investments in the asset. For example, plant and machinery may be available at lease also, if that is available, like in construction contracts, etc. If we see JCB machines and all, these are easily available on rent. But if your industry is not like that, where the machines are available on lease or on rent, then you will have to buy it only. And when you buy, you have to make more investment. So huge investment is required if leasing facility or taking a plant on hire is not available. And if it is available, lesser requirement is there for the fixed capital. Next is what is the level of collaboration? What is the meaning of level of collaboration? Like the best example is banks. A lot of banks, you must have seen, their own ATMs are not there, but you can use any bank's card in any other ATM. So that is collaboration. So let us read what is written over here. It becomes common practice to collaborate with different organizations in the industry and use each other's resources for a common good. For example, one single ATM machine can be used to withdraw funds from accounts of different banks. This practice reduces the investment required. Why? Because everybody need not to put machines everywhere, ATM machines everywhere. Some banks can put somewhere and other banks can put some other places. So in this way, we are reducing the cost of installing ATM machines. And in this way, what is happening? The cost of fixed capital requirement is reducing. Now, next is working capital. This we are going to do in the next class. So let us recap what we did today. We first of all started today in today's class that what is fixed capital and what is working capital. Under fixed capital, which is called capital budgeting decision also, we see that what kind of assets, in what kind of assets we are making the investment. So all the fixed assets are for the longer period of time, usually more than 12 months. And the examples of this are plant, machinery, land, etc. And fixed assets do not get converted into cash within 12 months. And the purpose of acquiring fixed asset is enhancing the production capacity of the business. And what are the factors? Then we saw next, what are the factors which, we saw what is importance of fixed capital. Importance of fixed capital, it helps in long-term growth, large amount of funds is involved over here, risk is involved, and these decisions are irreversible. That is why it is very important to take the financial fixed capital investment or capital budgeting decisions carefully. Next was we saw what are the factors which affect the fixed capital requirement. So that is nature of business, scale of operation, choice of technique, then technological upgradation, next growth prospects, then diversification, then financing alternatives, and level of collaboration. These are some of the things which will affect the requirement of fixed capital. Okay. So your today's work is to revise all of these things what we did. Today's class is very shorter. Okay, I'm keeping it short purposely so that you can revise it properly. This is one of the important topics which may be asked in the exam directly. So you need to revise it properly. When we meet in the next class, what are we going to do? We are going to do working capital. Till then, keep revising it. Have a good day. Bye.